Everything else in my life is just simple and convenient, but my romantic relationship is hard work and it's messy. We have to talk things through. We have to help each other emotionally. We have to be good at compromise and conflict resolution and communication skills. And it's just exhausting to put in all this work. Nothing else in my life makes me do this.
So what is going on here? Well, this is Alexander Grace. He has a YouTube channel devoted to dating and relationships. If you don't watch him and you're interested in that sort of thing, then I recommend checking him out. We're going to take a look at this video here today because I have a lot of things to say about it. So let's dive in. Before we do, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Make sure that you're still subscribed. You can find me on Rumble and on Twitter.
If your husband is a good guy, but you're ready for divorce, you're not a bad person. So don't let guilt get the best of you.
You're not doing him any favors by staying. If anything, you're actually going to start building up resentment. Your relationship doesn't have to be toxic to validate your feelings of wanting to leave.
This is one of the reasons why the divorce rate is so high, why there are more single people than ever, because there's this pervasive cultural myth that says that relationships are meant to be simple, easy, and convenient. And if they're not, then just leave. If you think
Is that really the reason why? I mean, maybe that's part of it, like you said. I think that a lot of it has to do with the woke mind virus here that has said that, women can have it all. Women should have it all. And the fact that women are out there getting their bag instead of being dependent on a man. That has increased the divorce rate exponentially. And then on top of that, we added in no-fault divorce. Those are the major contributing factors. If women have always been able to earn their own way. Don't think that they haven't been able to. This notion that this is a concept that started in the 60s or the 50s or something like that, it's not true. My grandmother, who was born in 1911, had a job before she got married. She had a job after she got married, even. My grandfather was dependent on her, financially dependent on her during the Great Depression. He would get occasional work, and she was a full-time employee. So the notion that women didn't work before 1960s, 1970s, or whatever is ridiculous.
Think that relationships are going to be straightforward, let me just destroy that expectation for you. You think you're going to meet a girl and it's instantly just going to be perfection? Absolutely not. Relationships are messy. The tolerance in our culture for things that are messy has gone down massively. We want things that are easy and convenient. We want simplicity.
I don't think that's true at all. I think he's wrong there. I think that the tolerance has gone up. The thing is that things were not as messy before in relationships. It was very straightforward. You met a girl in high school, you married her. That's how it worked. You had a couple of kids, you got a job down at the local plant. She might have had a part-time job as a secretary or something, worked for the church. Things were a lot simpler, and now things are messy and it's driving people nuts. People can't maintain anything in the Western world.
Simplicity and instant gratification. My streaming services are easy. The apps on my phone are simple. The prostitute that I pay for sex doesn't have any expectations beyond money. Everything else in my life is just simple and convenient, but my romantic relationship is hard work and it's messy. We have to talk things through. We have to help each other emotionally. We have to be good at compromise and conflict resolution and communication skills, and it's just exhausting to put in all this work. Nothing else in my life makes me do this. And there is this mindset that says that unless a relationship slots in perfectly with my existing life, then it's not worth having. I want you to watch this next video.
Where does that mindset come from? That unless a relationship slots perfectly into my existing life, it's not worth having? Well, I think part of it comes from giving women independence, and part of it comes from just human nature in general. Another part of it comes from men. Men are not innocent in this. Men are not without blame in this dating situation that we find ourselves in these days. The thing is, when I was single and I would be reading information on dating and relationships, one of the big tenets today is have a great life as a man. Have a great life, be on your game, get your bag, do you, and then if a woman fits into that, then great, or find a woman that will fit into that. That's how you have to do it, period. There's no compromise on that. And I'm like, well, that's not necessarily realistic. That does, of course, put a damper on relationships. There was a girl who I tried dating, and it was here where I live now in California, and her whole thing was, I want to move to LA. I'm like, well, I'm not going to date you if you live in LA. That's ridiculous. I'm not going to go to LA every day to see you or have you come here to see me. That seems kind of silly. Now that I work in LA, at that time I didn't work in LA. Now that I work in LA, then it'd be a different story because it's like I'm going there all the time anyway. Anyway, back to the video.
Because you are not going to believe the ending.
I'm going on 50 first dates. Here's date number 7.
Sorry. But first of all, she's going on 50 first dates. Just your daily reminder of how easy it is as a woman to get 50 first dates.
Yeah, so if I wanted to get 50 first dates, I don't think I've been on 50 first dates in my whole life, honestly. Maybe close. I don't know. I was single a long time, so.
Sorry, let's keep going.
So I matched with this guy on Hinge. He asked me out for dinner. We're gonna go and get some pizza together. Wish me luck. So update, I met him at the tube stop and it was like raining. Bought an umbrella. The whole time he was like holding the umbrella over me. Oh my god, guys. We ate the pizza. I had spinach caught in my teeth. So embarrassed. He was eventually like, you just have a little bit of spin. And I dropped food twice. Walked past this arcade place, playing like air hockey and like some driving games and stuff. Actually really fun. I'm having a nice time with him. Playing pool. He made a comment about my body. I love curvy women. Know that it's a compliment. Don't comment on my body on the first date. So sweet and so nice and intelligent. He doesn't drink. He was really sweet, but alcohol thing is a bit of a deal breaker for me. And I thought about seeing him again, but at the end of the day, like I want to be able to cook dinner and have like a bottle of wine. Like I do want to go out and like have a crazy drunken night with him, you know? Like that's where we're not aligned.
Can you believe it? He's a nice guy. He's sweet. He's intelligent. He holds up the umbrella when it's raining over me. He likes my body, even though I'm clearly overweight. We had a good time. He's a nice guy. We had a fun evening. But no, because I want to be able to drink wine while I'm making dinner. I want to be able to go out and have a drunken night. So we're just not aligned on values. No deal. No second date with this guy because I can't compromise even a little bit, even on something as moronic as that.
Yeah, I've run into this with women. It's like they want it all. They want too much. They ask too much. They expect you to be perfect, right? So there's certain stupid little things that they won't compromise on, and I don't understand that. It's really important for you to watch movies with me every day. I don't understand that. Okay, whatever. I mean, I used to do the same thing when I was younger in the past. I remember there was this girl, really attractive girl, and I thought she was into me, and I definitely was into her. And I was talking to her, getting to know her, and then she mentioned that she loves NASCAR, and I'm like, okay, this probably isn't going to work. But in retrospect, what I should have been like, well, she can like that. She can do that on her own. I don't have to do that with her. And I don't think that she was like a hardcore fan, but it was something that she enjoyed doing at least sometimes. So anyway, yeah, you gotta be flexible on those sorts of things.
And this is not just women too. I'm going to point the finger directly at men because my Hey Hero inbox is flooded with men who are talking themselves out of relationships for really stupid, petty shit. I can't tell you how many variations of this story I've heard. Like, I've been dating this girl for 6 months. She's really sweet. She's really kind. She's really pretty. She treats me really well. But she has a tattoo on her arm, and I just don't know if I can live with that. Or
I've run into that. It's this guy that I know who's in his 40s, and he's like, yeah, I don't date girls with tattoos, period. I'm like, you're not going to be dating today. Good luck. I've dated... Most women I've dated didn't have tattoos. I don't know about just going on like one date with a girl, but most women I've been with for more than just one date didn't have tattoos for sure. But I mean, it's not like I look for that. I don't really care that much. I understand everybody's like, oh, it's a red flag, it's a red flag. But she got a lot of tattoos, it's a red flag, it's a flag. And maybe that's true. I don't know. My wife doesn't have any tattoos, but I can't sit here and be like, hey, I'm going to date you because I have a tattoo. So what am I going to do? I can't be like, oh, you have a tattoo, I'm not going to date you when I have one.
she had a one-night stand back when she was 19, and that's really not my values. Or some of her friends are vegan, and I'm worried about that. Is that a red flag? And so here I am on my end of the computer screen reading that there's this sweet girl who treats you nice, who's feminine. The relationship is good, it's enjoyable, but you're thinking about this one tiny flaw or this one mistake that she made 5 years ago. Have some perspective. Please, you know that high quality women who treat you nicely are rare, right? You found one and she sounds great and you like the relationship. Why are you focusing on the negative? Who told you that you are entitled to expect perfection? Are you perfect? Have you never made mistakes? Do you not have any mental health issues or any annoying habits? Or are you generally a good guy who has like a couple of flaws, but you treat people well and you've got a bright future? I think the man...
Well, he mentioned one night stand when she was 19. It's like, what is it that you're looking for, ladies? Are you looking for a committed relationship where you're monogamous? Then why would you sleep around before you find that relationship? Your whole life should be focused on that lifestyle. This whole notion that, like, oh yeah, I want to get married and have kids. And I mean, I meet women who say that all the time. Like, that's kind of their standard operating procedure. I want to get married and have kids. Great. I support that lifestyle. You go do that. But then why are you sleeping around? Why are you having casual sexual relationships at all, period? It's one thing if she went into that one night stand thinking, okay, this is a guy that I'm going to be able to date and have a long-term relationship with. And then he just bails on her. Screws, nuts, bolts, right? Goes to the hardware store. That's one thing. But if she's doing that, if she's the one who's out sleeping around, if she's the one who's out not looking for a relationship, she's just looking for sex. And I can say the same thing about men. This is preemptive cheating. I've met women who claim the same thing. It's like, yeah, if a man sleeps around before marriage, that's just preemptive cheating. It's not conducive to a happy long-term relationship. So anyway.
Manosphere might be partly to blame here because with all of the praise of like the 22-year-old virgin with lots of femininity, no debt, no mental health issues, like there's so much praise of that girl that it makes men who consume too much of that content feel like they're a failure if they're dating a girl who doesn't fit that description perfectly. And this is
Really, this is what you're coming across in your men's help situation? I don't know any man out there who's like, yeah, if I don't get a 22-year-old virgin with no mental health issues, then I'm a failure. Men realize that women want to have sex, and women do have sex these days. I mean, it's one thing if maybe if she was like a Christian, if he's a Christian man looking for a Christian woman who has a lot of strong religious convictions, who's looking for that in his woman, then yeah, I can understand him expecting her to be a virgin. But other than that, I don't see men out here going, yeah, she's got to be a virgin at 22. That's really rare unless she's really ugly.
Weird place for me to be in, because for so much of my career here on YouTube, the majority of my advice has been trying to encourage men to raise their standards and to pay more attention to the red flags. Stop ignoring them. Stop being such desperate simps that you're committing to the girl, even though she's obviously a disaster. Like, believe me, I still have to give that advice a lot. She drinks 3 nights a week. That's a red flag. She slept with 8 men last year. Red flag. She's speaking to you disrespectfully. That's a red flag. Pay attention to this stuff. Like, yes, I'm still encountering a lot of men who need that advice, 100%. But increasingly, there's a growing number of requests from men who are overcorrecting. They're letting perfection be the enemy of good enough. And they're developing really unrealistic expectations about what it means to be inside a relationship. The reality is that you're not perfect and she's not going to be perfect either. And the relationship is not going to be all sunshine and rainbows. It's going to be...
Well, there's a difference between perfection and reasonable. Like, getting with a woman who has not been ran through should be a reasonable expectation. You should not know any women who've been ran through, unless you know a prostitute. That should be it. That should be the only exception to that rule. Which, I mean, in my opinion, that should not exist either in society, in a civilized world where we have plenty of opportunity for jobs. I knew a girl, she was a student of mine, when I was teaching at an online school, and she was unhappy and wanted to leave her husband because she had been that girl. She had been in the industry. And then after her husband fell madly in love with her and married her without knowing that. And then when he found out, he called her a slut right to her face. Well, I mean, can you blame him? But I mean, he should have done a better job of vetting her. She was really attractive, obviously. I mean, she's working in that industry. She's got to be pretty. But yeah, it's like, how is this not a reasonable request to have that a woman has not been ran through? But yet it's pretty much commonplace nowadays. You meet a 22-year-old girl, she's like, yeah, I've been with 16, 17, 18, at 22, even younger. No, I mean, you know girls in high school. I'm sure if you're a high school guy or recently out of high school, you knew girls in high school who were doing this stuff. I was like, that's not okay. It's not an acceptable way to be if you want a long-term relationship. Why would I want to be with somebody who's going to be like, oh yeah, I had all my fun and I had all this and that and the other. It's like, why aren't you saving that energy, that sexual energy for me and wanting to get that out in our relationship? And on top of which, like I said earlier, you want a monogamous situation. Then why are you not pursuing that relentlessly?
Be messy. You're going to need to work at it. It's really concerning the damage that's being done by this message that's permeating society that says that you're entitled to expect perfection and that relationships are meant to be easy. And so when you're consuming content that's talking about the qualities of a woman and what are positive values for her to have, try and discern what is the underlying intention of that content. Is it to make you aware of red flags and to educate you and make sure that you got your standards raised high enough and to make sure that you have some standards and some expectations for the women that date you? Or is the purpose just to shame women by holding up some unrealistic standard and expectation for them? And the true purpose is just to give men the opportunity to vent their emotional frustrations and feel superior and virtue signal by like criticizing women for falling short. Because let me tell you, if men only deem women as acceptable if they are perfect, then we're total hypocrites. Because how many times have you heard men criticize women for their unrealistic expectations? You know, the idea that every woman is entitled to a man who's 6 foot, making 6 figures, has a 6-pack, you know, and 6 inches. All those sixes, you know.
Yeah, but getting all those 6s in one man is unrealistic. How are you going to get that? Because we already know that like 15% of the population, of the male population, is 6 feet or taller. So, okay, all right, you're dealing with 15% of the population and less. Okay, so how many of those men who are 6 feet or taller have a 6-pack? Okay, you're probably dealing with 1% now of the population. How many of those men make 6 figures? Okay, so you're dealing with 0.1% of the population. How many of those men also have 6 inches or more in the pants? So now you're dealing with 0.0001% or some ridiculously small. It's like one guy in the United States meets all those criteria. Probably more than one because there are athletes, right? And they're going to have the 6-packs, right? And be 6 feet tall a lot of times. But you're still dealing with a small percentage of the population. And women need to be realistic about that. Men are just asking women to be like kind and not garden tools. Wow. And reasonably attractive. They don't expect her to be a supermodel. Obviously, that's ideal. Here, I'll show you what my ideal woman is right here. Physically. I think every man would take this. A fit woman who's flexible. And I had the opportunity to get one of these women and I screwed it up. I blew it. Kick myself for that. But not many men are going to be able to get this because this is the minority of women. Let's get back to what Alex has to say here.
women feel entitled to that. And we're like, this is ridiculous. Like, women, you can't have everything. Stop being so entitled. You can't expect perfection. Yeah, it's completely ridiculous. But the men who think that they're entitled to some perfect virgin woman who's never made a mistake in her life are just as ridiculously entitled. And just to be clear, I'm not enthusiastic about tattoos or the fact that she had a one-night stand. Like, that's not my value system. This isn't something to celebrate. But you don't need perfection to be happy. And the expectation of perfection is likely going to destroy your chance of real happiness. So let me give it to you straight. Let me talk about reality. Gentlemen, when you meet a woman, a high-quality woman, expect that there's going to be something wrong with her. Overall, she's going to be great. She's going to treat you well. She's going to be feminine. She's going to be a good mother. All the important stuff is going to be there, and you shouldn't compromise on the important stuff. But there's going to be something that is wrong with her. I don't know what it is, okay? Maybe she had a slightly more colorful past than you wanted. Maybe she
Slightly more colorful past. So this is what we're looking at here. I'm going to show you a clip from a movie from 1963.
And then you have had the 3 lovers.
What is the purpose of such an intimate question?
You are not here to ask questions. You forget to whom you're speaking.
I was in love.
And if you are not in love?
I suppose that would depend on the man.
This is what you could expect from a girl in 1963. This is from James Bond, the second James Bond movie ever made, From Russia with Love. So this is kind of the expectation in the 1960s, that a woman would be in love with a man before she engaged in relations with him, although obviously she left the door open for an exception there, and that she would have a low number of men as an adult, doing all these different men. And men don't want a woman who's going to go out and sleep with a bunch of men. In short, what is it the men are asking? Don't misbehave. What is it that women are asking for? Oh, you have to be genetically superior. I have very little control over my height or the size of my reproductive organs. I do have control over whether or not I have a six-pack. That's the one that I have the most control over. I have some control over how much money I make, but I don't have ultimate control there. There is government interference. There are calamities that destroy crops, etc. So they want a genetically superior man, whereas we're just looking for somebody who doesn't misbehave. So women have ultimate control in this situation. Anyway, back to the video.
she's not quite as pretty as the dream girl that you imagined. Maybe on certain topics she gets a little bit more emotional than you would like. Or she has some close friends that you find annoying. Or she's a few years older than you'd ideally want. Or maybe there's some sexual issue that's difficult for the two of you to overcome. I don't know what it is, but I know people, and you should not expect perfection from people. Even if she's a high quality woman who you're excited to spend the rest of your life with, there'll be something wrong with her. Remember, she hasn't just been lying dormant, waiting for you to come into her life and activate her. No, she's her own person. She's had her own experiences, her own relationships, her own achievements and frustrations and failures. She's got her own personality, her own perspective on things, and when you first meet, they're not going to sync perfectly with yours. I think it's really concerning when men are overly fetishizing the woman who's like completely unspoiled. They claim that fresh, innocent kind of femininity and purity. And I'm not saying that I don't understand the appeal of that, but hopefully you can understand that if it gets to a point where you're valuing that so much to the point where any experiences she's had before meeting you, you're viewing as a negative, then you've clearly lost perspective. Not every experience that a woman has had is going to be a negative one and make her bitter. The hardships that we go through life can be character building. And when you meet a high quality woman, she's probably going to be able to tell you about the various struggles and difficult relationships she had in her life, and ideally the lessons that she learned from them and how she grew from them. It's not a negative that she's been completely sheltered from the world. It's a positive thing because she's engaged with the world and has come out stronger because of it. That's how you know she has some depth, some character. There's a strong case to be made for a version of femininity that has been through some shit and come out stronger on the other side. So even when you meet the girl who you ultimately want to settle down with, please don't have the delusional expectation that the two of you are going to be perfectly in sync with each other from the beginning. That's not going to happen. What you need to be checking for is that you're mostly on the same page. You largely see the world the same way, you have the same goals and values, you're going in the same direction. For that stuff, the two of you do need to be in tune with each other. But
yeah, that's really the important stuff. And ladies today don't seem to realize that. Women today seem to think that it's more about getting the sixes or getting some superficial thing like, oh, we have this and that in common, therefore it's going to be a good relationship. And it's like, yeah, but do you want the same things long term? That's fun for a weekend that, hey, we both enjoy this same activity, let's go do it. Yeah, okay, great. That might be fun for years even, maybe for your entire life to do those things together. But do you want the same things out of life? Are you looking for a long-term commitment? Are you looking to share your lives in some way that is going to be effective long term? If not, then you need to move on. Find somebody who does have those goals.
that's probably not going to account for so much of the daily interactions and just the general way that you communicate with each other and the way that you talk about things. For that, it's going to be a little bit messy. Some of the things that you don't understand about her are potentially going to frighten you. And so you need to have the masculine courage to actually have the conversation. Like, why do you say that? Why do you see things this way? Why did you make this decision in your past? And actually be open to learning why she's doing those things. Again, the idea of having standards for the women that we date is for the purpose of making sure that you don't settle for some low quality abusive woman. But it's not intended to hold up some unattainable image of perfection to all women and then shame them for falling short. That's just being delusional. That's being entitled. And it's being cowardly. It's falling in love with some two-dimensional image because you're not emotionally mature or competent enough to actually deal with a real woman. So please don't be like this woman that we saw at the start of the video, ending things with men over really superficial stuff, believing that you're entitled to perfection, and when you don't get it, you just move on to the next person. Expect it to not be perfect. Expect it to be difficult in times. Certainly expect it to be messy, and then be prepared to work on it. Put in the time, put in the effort, compromise, learn from each other, and grow. A lot of the pair bonding that actually creates that feeling of loyalty to your partner comes from overcoming those difficulties and growing through them. If she's
He said learn to compromise there. I think that that's a lesson that women need to have. Maybe, right? These woke women today, I was told that they deserve perfection. I knew that I would have to compromise going into a long-term relationship. That's just how it is. That's just part of the deal. Don't necessarily like that all the time, but that's how it is. Life is all a compromise, right? Do I speak Russian at all? Do I want to speak Russian? Yeah, it would be nice if I spoke a second language fluently. But what am I willing to sacrifice to get that? I'd have to compromise something in my life, spend my time, my mental energy to learn a foreign language.
Perfect and there's never any issues in your relationship, then you haven't really been tested as a couple. But if there were some hard times and you struggled to understand each other's idiosyncrasies and talk through the differences in values and perspectives, when you successfully navigate those challenges, you're going to feel so much closer to that person. Your relationship is not going to be perfect. Sometimes you're going to lose your temper. Sometimes she will. You're going to make mistakes. It's a relationship. It's not a fairy tale. There's not going to be some happily ever after. A relationship is work. You need to do it and she needs to do it. It's going to be messy, but that's okay. It's meant to be. Expect it. I'm not saying ignore red flags to the point where you're tolerating abuse. I'm saying be better than the instant gratification generation who believes they're entitled to everything without putting in any hard work.
So then he wants to go into get, the advertisement for his channel and stuff. I just wonder what the world would be like, what the world is going to be like if we create programmable humans, basically androids, in every way human, at least externally in every way human. But then we can just type in a few lines of code and get them to behave the way that we want them to behave. Right? In other words, sex robots. Because let's face it, if it's not the touch of another human being, or at least feels like the touch of another human being, it's just not even worth it, really. I don't know. Maybe it is. I've never tried any of those alternates. We want that touch, that feeling of another warm body with us. What would the world be like in that situation? I have benefits from having a wife that are not sexual benefits, right? She does things for me. Like she just went to the grocery store and bought me some things that I wanted or needed. That saved me time out of my day. So you would have like an android companion who doubles as your sex slave. How would that work out in the world? What would the world be like? Who would complain about that situation? How would it be different for men and women? Because men are going to be focusing on like being on their path, their mission, and getting the sexual release that they need. So they're going to have an actual slave of a robot, and then is there going to be people coming out and saying, hey, look, this is inhumane treatment because this person, this android, is just as intelligent as a human being. So they have all of the qualities of a human that matter, the intelligence, the emotional development. So how is it that we can treat them as objects that do our bidding? Lots of different options, or lots of different avenues to explore with these concepts that I don't know, I can't answer those questions for you. It'd take a while to kind of sit down and work through what that world would be like. And maybe there's been a couple of books written about that. I don't know if there has been, but probably there has been a movie that was similar in nature that had sort of these themes. I don't remember the name of it. It was not that old of a movie. There's only like within the last 5 years. I don't think it did not go to theaters. I do not remember what it was called at all, but it was about this guy who had his little sex slave robot girl. Entertaining enough, I guess. I'll probably put like the name of it up here on the screen so you can watch it, explore it if you want to. Anyway, that's all I got for this time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.